And happy Sunday night to you, live on Corn Nation's YouTube channel and Facebook and X. X. This is the Corn Nation Overreaction show. I'm Greg Mahochko, my good friend, fellow Husker fan, and longtime podcasting buddy, Mr. Haas Reuter. Haas, it is a Sunday night. It is. We were talking yesterday morning. We had a lot better feeling going into that game than coming out of that game. Nebraska losing at USC at the Coliseum, still winless against the Trojans, 28-20 yesterday. We went into this. We talked for an hour about a lot of things. You know, it was a great visit with you, but we were like, even you said, like, I got a good feeling about today. And it started so positive. We had the Ceyair Wright pick six, and everybody's jumping. And then, oh man, I hate to say it, but same old.
You know, I got to say this. When I told you on the phone, hey, I got a good feeling about today, that might as well have been the kiss of death that sealed it right there. Okay? There's two things that have happened in the last 5 to 7 years of this like never-ending statistical anomaly where we just defy every law of the universe as a football program. And that's the day before the game, no matter how the last week's result went, the Friday before the game, usually sometime in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, I'm all of a sudden like, son of a bitch, what happens if we just roll tomorrow and drop half 100 on whoever we're playing? Yeah. So when that happens, and then the Saturday morning, I got a good feeling about today happens, when those two things are in alignment, that's basically like, hey, we're fucked. Like, we're done. You know, we're losing. So, yeah, like, and you know what's funny? After yesterday, there's that, I don't know why I do this to myself anymore, you know, like after the game's over. And I guarantee you, come Friday, November 22nd at about 4:40 p.m., I'll be going, son of a bitch, you know what? We're going to hang half 100 on the Badgers.
every week.
For punishment. This, I've never done heroin. Let me speak that disclaimer out there. Like, just, I'm not a drug guy at all.
No.
I want to say this. Husker football must be like what a heroin addiction is. You know it's bad for you, yet you keep coming back to it every week. You Jones for it. You're happy when the season's finally over. I mean, you're not happy when you lose to Iowa, but you're happy when the misery is finally over. And then come March, when spring football starts up, you know you're going to start going like, well, what if this is the year? You start being like, maybe we could be like 2000 Oklahoma, who came out of nowhere to win a national championship. It's a sickness. We all have it. Let's just, you know, if we need to turn this into a 12-step meeting, you know, that's fine. But it's just, it is what it is.
I'll go so far as to say, for me, it's not even March. It's usually early signing day. You know, we start getting all these all these seniors or, you know, incoming freshmen, whatever. And some of them, you know, they're going to join, hit campus in January. And I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to be the year we turn it around.
Do you remember those NFL Network commercials back in the day where it's like showing fans before the season about what it means to be a fan? There's this Raiders fan who's wearing a old school Bo Jackson jersey. And he's like, who cares if it's the preseason? Raiders are going all the way. They almost went winless that year. That's basically what it's like being a Husker fan. We are the Chicago Cubs of college football. We are the Buffalo Bills before Josh Allen of college football.
I said this because, as you know, I'm a Steelers fan. And the Steelers got a win today, a 2-point win.
They just find a way to get it done.
With 6 field goals. And I put in the comments on Facebook, because I'm not a boomer, but, you know, I'm old. So I put in the comments, I said, great, I love 2 teams who don't know how to finish drives. Because, I'm sorry, settling for 6 field goals, and thank God they have Chris Boswell. And then we'll get into it.
It's kind of like when the Steelers beat the Chiefs by kicking 6 field goals, and that's what, like, bred my Steelers hatred into me.
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Let's do a quick shout-out to everybody who's here. Hey, look, it's Sunday night. And we're 5-5, and you're still showing up. So we thank you.
2 games to go.
We do this for you, but also because we got stuff we got to get off our chest as well. So Pitt Snipe Husker is here saying, hey, yo, Justin Raji was first at 4:55. Thanks, Justin. Mike, I'm sorry, is here. Hello. Fred says, hey, everyone. Rostowski says salutations.
Aaron.
Gargamel says, hey, guys. We're going to star that one for later. Oh, you said Fred with a great Star Wars paraphrase, Haas Solo. I've got a good feeling about this.
Never, ever, ever listen to me when I say that.
No.
I will say the one time that it's kind of came true is having breakfast in Columbus, Ohio, back on October 26th before the game. I told Jake, I'm like, you know what, man? I think we're going to drag these guys into a rock fight today. And we did, but, we still didn't win.
Brett's here from on that. I hate it when water goes down.
That's what
Wherever.
She
I'm just trying to breathe, man. You're not helping. Brett says howdy.
Howdy.
Colin says, as a 24-year-old Husker fan, all I've known is pain. The past is pain. The present is pain. The future, pain. Look at
Colin.
I just like that. That's poetic.
I totally agree, man. I was born in 90, November 26, 1990. Got a birthday coming up. I thought, or like people are always like, hey, man, like you remember the 90s. Like Jake, it's a good example. I went to UNO with Jake. A lot of my classmates were younger than me. They're like, do you remember the 90s national championship teams? No, I was more interested in playing with Star Wars toys and Legos and Jurassic Park stuff. And then
we talked
rather
about
than
that
enjoying the pinnacle of college football. So, yeah, I feel you, bro.
4 hours to Lincoln says, for the record, I don't have a great feeling at all.
I am dead inside.
My
eyes, after that last incompletion, my eyes probably just look like two piss holes drilled in the snow, just vacant.
I'll say this. Talk about a little bit of poetry. Aaron Rostovsky says, better to be eternally hopeful followed by disappointment than to expect shit every week like some.
Aaron, I wouldn't change it for anything. I really wouldn't. I just have to be able to laugh at myself.
Let's see. I don't know. Oh, step one from Pitt says, come to admit that we are powerless over shitty football as fans. And then Fred says, step two, turn our lives over to John Johnston.
I think same initials as Jim Jones. That's dangerous.
Living in Omaha, David Matney, the official realtor of the Five Heart podcast. And if he wants to fork over more cash, the Overreaction podcast as well, says good evening. And let's see. NU is 4-22 over the last 4 years. I'm guessing in one score games. And Paul is a statistician, and that makes his head explode. 4-22 in one score games, Hoss. What do you think?
It's a statistical anomaly. It truly, like Murphy's Law is anything that can happen will happen unless it's Nebraska football.
Then it's only the bad things will happen.
I mean, we saw talk about anomalies, the bounces yesterday. The ball bounced every which way but ours.
That's that. You know what? That's why I think, if anything, I was not relegating myself to cellar dwelling. I was like, I didn't feel like we were out. It just felt like a few things didn't go our way.
Yeah, the breaks weren't going our way. And I will say, Pitt Snipe points out at 9:08 p.m. How long we got to whine like little girls before I suggest that we saw improvement. I think we did see improvement, personally. I thought the offense was improved. I saw some things on the offense that we'll get into later that I really didn't like, and I have some opinions on. But by and large, I thought that the unit overall functioned better. They got the one-on-one matchups that Dana Holgorsen was trying to exploit. Unfortunately, the position that matters most, the quarterback position, he just wasn't able to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I pissed somebody off yesterday when I suggested that, and I suggested it jokingly that maybe it was a quarterback issue.
Oh, we're just going to jump right into this, huh?
Oh, no.
I didn't. There's no easing into a street fight. I'm in.
All right. Hold on. Before we do, Gargamel says at 9:07, Yingling is smoother than water. So I made the switch.
Yep. I was drinking a few Yingling Lights. I brought my parents a couple cases back from Ohio. I watched the game at their house yesterday.
Do you ever wonder that maybe that's why Nebraska loses, because you're drinking light beer?
I drink Coors Banquet. That's a meal in a can. Coors Banquet is why I'm usually, probably about anywhere from 3 to 8 pounds over where I actually probably should be.
Wait a minute. I'm so glad you talked about that. I stepped on the scale this morning, and unbeknownst to a lot of people, I've been accidentally on a little bit of a weight loss journey. I started this journey at the beginning of April at 278, most I've ever weighed. And I stepped on the scale this morning at 239. I couldn't tell you the last time, in all honesty, I was sub 240. So
we gotta get you a fight booked with Logan Paul.
No.
We're gonna get you into fighting weight.
Well, no, and I'll tell you why, because we all know that Netflix wouldn't be able to handle it. It'd be overrun. So I'm celebrating dropping all this weight with a full flavored, delicious beverage from the good people at Yuengling, America's oldest brewery.
I have some high quality H2O.
I got that too. All right. So we know.
All right.
Eventually.
Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
Let's just jump in. All right.
We're going to lose so many people right away.
All right. It is what it is. I want to try to be as diplomatic as possible when I say this. Right now, Dylan Raiola is talented. He's, there's no question that he's got the physical traits to be an elite quarterback and to be the kind of quarterback that 3 or 4 years from now is drafted in the NFL. But that moment is not here yet. He's not ready. I think a bad offensive coordinator in Scott Satterfield or Marcus Satterfield, sorry, that is always going to confuse me. Scott Frost, Marcus Frost, Scott Satterfield, see what I did there? Okay. All right.
I'm on board. Yeah.
I think the bad OC, the bad quarterback coaching, I'm really starting to think that he's getting some bad quarterback instruction from Glenn Thomas. He's seeing ghosts. Teams are flipping coverages post-snap. I think they're also, when he calls out the blocking schemes and the protections for the offensive line, you saw UCLA really moving stuff around, right before the snap as well. He's not ready right now. I think that it would probably be in the best interest for him to sit these last 2 games or maybe not sit completely the last 2 games, but I think we need to start giving Haarberg a little bit more of an opportunity in terms of snaps because of what he does to change the football calculus, so to speak. So when you have a mobile quarterback and you're utilizing the quarterback run game, that's 11 on 11. You're creating an extra blocker. You're creating an extra gap for the defense to defend. But when you are utilizing a pro-style quarterback, you're playing more like playing 10 on 11 because you're taking away the threat of the run. Mm-hmm. Right now with Dylan's decision-making and just being a little tentative because he's a little gun-shy from coming through this year, with what defenses are throwing at him, it's kind of like we're playing more 9 on 11. So we're kind of at a disadvantage. And I think that the quarterback run game, and I'm not saying that Heinrich Haarberg is going to suddenly become Josh Allen, but I think what will happen is I think that you would see that the threat of the quarterback run game would open up the tailback run game as well. I think it would open up some stuff in play action. And really, utilizing a mobile quarterback in the air raid is not unprecedented. Lincoln Riley, they kept talking about how much he loved the counter play for USC yesterday. He ran the piss out of that at Oklahoma. They would run Baker Mayfield on the quarterback counter, again, especially against Georgia in the 2017 college football playoff game. And so you saw Haarberg when he came in immediately have some runs. He was close to housing it on that one zone read that he came in on. And so I think that it's something worth exploring because it also forces Iowa and Wisconsin to defend a little bit differently. Right now, I think with what Iowa does in playing such a static coverage shell and just really trying to keep everything in front of them and not tip their hand before the snap on what coverage is, I think right now with how Dylan's having a hard time really grasping things, they're going to eat him alive in that game.
Let's see. A lot of comments about this. Let's see if we can go. Mr. Matney says something about how Dylan took his Mahomes headband off at the press conference. So another reference to that. Fred says in response to David Matney, lost the Mahomes Act 2. Now he looks like a true freshman who's playing not to lose. Let's see. Eric says can't convert on third downs. Receivers can't even get to the marker. And there was another comment here Fred says he slid 2 yards before on that first down early. Things like that. Sam Matney says just let Heinrich Haarberg run the ball 50 times.
The slide is a case of, and Bill Parcells is one of my
awareness, right?
Yeah, it's awareness. And Bill Parcells is one of my favorite coaches in football because of how hard he was on quarterbacks. He gave Phil Simms no quarter. And that's because as the quarterback, you are the field general. You are the coaching staff out there on the field making the decisions. And you have to have schematic awareness and situational awareness at all times. Like there was no excuse for that. I understand that he was saying that he was concerned about his back, but at that point, like, to slide before the marker is almost like Joe Daly running out of bounds on 4th down against Southern Miss in 2004. You have to know where the sticks are at, and you got to be a tough guy to play quarterback in the Big Ten Conference.
And I'll say this. I saw it happen yesterday. I saw it happen today, late in that Steelers Ravens game, because Justin Fields did the same thing, slid about a yard, yard shy, and they were up by 2, minute left, and Ravens are trying to burn up timeout, so they luckily got the first down on the next play and were able to kill the clock.
I saw that too. And then you saw Josh Allen.
Happens.
You saw Josh Allen slide in the Chiefs-Bills game, and they marked it a yard back too.
Pitt says it should not be even the smallest discomfort to let a freshman ride the pine. Stars don't complete passes. I agree with the first part. The second part,
I agree. Right. I think that maybe there's the little bit of a sunk cost fallacy that, we're not wanting to bench him because of, the high profile.
Right.
But right now, I think that the worst thing that we could do is continue to throw him out there because, it's got to be it could break his confidence at some point. And I think his confidence has taken quite a big hit.
I
since
agree.
The beginning of the year,
from coming out of the Colorado game.
Yep.
I think probably since the Illinois game where he overthrew Lindenmeyer.
Yeah, Lindenmeyer, which I love that play call. Still loved it then. Still love it now. Put the ball in the hands of your best player. I know some people are like, well, we should have used, those 2 downs to try to pick up 3 yards. Illinois probably would have stuffed our A gaps against Duo, and we would have been trying to kick a field goal anyways with John Hull. I love that, going for the kill shot. It just didn't connect, the execution of it, which really was kind of the big point yesterday. There were a lot of great calls that Holgorsen got us into one-on-one situations, and he's just not seeing the field very well. The great example, Banks is wide open inside the 5 for a first down. May have even been a touchdown. Instead, he checks it down to Emmett Johnson in the flat for like a 1-yard gain. Love the checkdowns. Never going to get mad about that. But that goes back to the situational awareness, and it goes back to confidence. And it really, from like an educational psychology perspective, goes back to a trained versus untrained. There was one educational psychologist that did a study on mental toughness, and what mental toughness is being trained versus being untrained. If you're going to ask, an Olympic weightlifter to walk across a tightrope, he's not going to be very tough.
Yeah.
If you ask that tightrope walker to complete an Olympic lift, they're not going to be very tough. So it all comes down to preparation and being confident in your preparation. So maybe that's something that really gets better with Dana having another full week to work with these guys heading into Wisconsin. But right now, it's just the body of evidence of Raiola just not really knowing what to look for out there because he's just trying to process information so fast and they're flipping coverages. It's pretty sizable.
Something Rostovsky says in Raiola's defense. It's like, though I agree with everything you guys are saying. Thank you. His wide receivers can't even beat anyone in man defense. Luckily, though, Iowa runs almost no man.
Yeah, they really like their quarters coverage and their Phil Parker's defense. I think that one thing that's kind of baffled me that we haven't really utilized a lot all year, and maybe this improves with Holgorsen in these last few games. If you're not able to beat man coverage, you got to use switch releases. You got to, create issues at the line of scrimmage where DB's got to work through some traffic. You use bunch formations, condensed twins formations, run pick plays, things like that. And so I think that's probably the route they need to go. And then I think from a personnel standpoint, Janiran Bonner is a great player. He needs to get way more snaps. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. I think that Boerkircher really needs to take over that tight end position heading into the last few games over Fedoni. And I think Carter Nelson, at this point, he's played in how many games? Just burn his red. His red shirt's already done.
His red shirt's gone.
Snaps. And then Ja'Cory Barney speaks for himself, obviously.
Right. Mike with a super chat. Thank you, Mike. $5 says Haarberg, one carry for 12 yards or something. It adds a new wrinkle. Even using the option would likely help. I
agree. There's so many 3rd and 2s where from like a play calling standpoint, you get to 3rd and 2 and it's like, hey, let's just run speed option to the edge. That'll pick it up. I mean, USC, their use of motion, we were using motion a lot to get defenders out of their gaps, get their eyes away from their keys, move defenders pre-snap away from the point of attack. And USC did a really nice job too. I think the best play call of the entire game was probably that 4th and 1 speed option play where they ran the jet motion one way to get the corner chasing in man. And then they hit the short side option to Woody Parks. That's the kind of stuff that, you hope that Haarberg could provide for us in those situations.
I am so sorry. I was just thinking about this option play. So before Nebraska's game yesterday, I went up to one of the high schools here in town. They're playing. It was in the state quarterfinals. And I've talked about this school a little bit because there was actually a running back who had a Nebraska offer. He's a 4-star, Ceyair Hill Jr. He ended up committing to Oregon. Actually caught up with him. I took one of my twins, Robert, with me. He's the only one who wanted to go. And it was 48-0 at halftime. They're like, yeah, we can go. They're going to have a running clock in the second half, and Nebraska's just about to start. But they did this really fun little and I apologize, I'm not an X's and O's guy, but it was a fun option. So I don't know. This is not going to work, and all I need to try erase work.
Anyway, you have 12 men on the field in that
2,
play.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I have 11.
Okay.
I have 2 receivers on the right, 1 on the left, along with a tight end lined up on the line.
Show it again. Show it again.
All right, sorry, I did it all quickly.
Okay.
Can you see that?
A little more up. Okay, so they're just like in the old Tom Osborne spread formation.
Yeah. So what we had was the quarterback kind of stepped back and, I think maybe it might have been an offset, but anyway, faked a handoff to Ceyair Hill, again, who's the 4-star running back, and started doing an RPO in the opposite direction. And then when the linebacker or maybe the corner bit, he did a little touch pass to the receiver who's just waiting patiently out there. And he took off for about a 15, 20-yard gain. I was like, damn, that's so simple. I don't know why Nebraska doesn't do something like that.
Yeah, our offense looks like it needs an enema.
Yeah.
Just looks constipated.
I know everybody, I'm not the X's and O's guy, but that was such a fun little play that I was thinking about. I wanted to bring it up.
You conducted yourself well, Greg.
Oh, shucks. Thank you. You mentioned
we do need a telestrator. Fred. Yeah.
Is that one of the new ones? I'm so far behind on my comments. Let's just jump to all day. All right. Our offense is an enema. All right. So you mentioned Janiran Bonner. We got some love for him in the comments. Rostovsky says, how much better was it watching Bonner run that arrow screen instead of Fedoni? Worth the new offensive coordinator alone.
Except we still hit one to Fedoni.
I don't think Fedoni's ever going to be quote unquote out of the game completely. You know what I mean?
This is not a popular opinion by any means, but I think Boerkircher has a better Sunday future than Fedoni right now.
Is that he's had what, 2 ACL tears?
2 ACL tears.
Yeah.
He got Matt Harriand.
Yeah.
Matt Harriand, if he doesn't break his leg, probably just wraps up a great NFL career in the last 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the Dallas Clark, Rob Gronkowski before those guys were really a thing. But I think with Fedoni, like he just, he doesn't have it anymore. And it's unfortunate because he was a freak of nature coming out of Lewis Central over in Council Bluffs. But I liked some of I liked the personnel rotations with the running backs. Ramir Johnson's a warrior and nobody's going to question his toughness, but he didn't see a single snap to my knowledge. It was all Emmett Johnson and Dante Dowdell. And Emmett Johnson really, I think, could be a really, really, really good tailback for us if he is allowed to get into a rhythm and his the package of plays that we utilize him on is allowed to expand.
I want to, touch on that because I also thought that Dante had some really explosive runs yesterday. He did. Two different styles of runners, and I mentioned this in as far as Emmett Johnson. At one point, he had a nice spin move, got another 7 or 8 yards out of it, after contact, and I said, Emmett Johnson, turning and burning, and then there's Dante Dowdell, who again I think he did a better job yesterday, or has tried to do a better job in the last couple of weeks of not necessarily seeking out the contact, and he showed some explosive capability yesterday. I thought he might have broken one. Got kind of held up there, maybe 12, 15 yards past the line of scrimmage. But I was very pleased with both the running backs yesterday until we got about 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and then we just went away from the run. I don't know why we abandoned it, and maybe I'm not remembering it the best. You have a much better memory, but it feels like we got very pass heavy, specifically the last 10 minutes of the game.
Well, there was that series that we took over deep in USC territory after Ty Robinson caused the fumble, and we completely went away from the run there. It was 3 passes, and I felt like we really should have been looking to kind of burn some time off the clock and try to be methodical in our approach to the end zone. And so it was a little disappointing. I thought that the backs, both in the running game and the passing game, were being utilized really well. I personally think that we probably need to utilize the inside zone run game a little bit more with some motion to get defenders out of their gaps. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we tried to really play with a sense of urgency with the passing game that I don't think the situation really called for, actually. I thought that with how they were mounting some drives on us, it seemed like every other drive they would, every other defensive series they would mount and drive on us. I felt like we really need to, take control of the game. It felt like USC had the ball pretty much the entire game. I mean, they had game control. Even with that pick 6 at the very beginning, it just felt like we were always playing from our back foot in that game.
I'm trying to find here, if I can, time of possession. Might have to come back and do a little more looking for it, but let's talk a little defense. Yeah, because I know you have thoughts.
Yeah,
and somebody said it here. Ken E 925 said offense isn't why we lost. Defense was shit.
Yep.
But again, it started so well, as we mentioned. Ceyair Wright just sitting on a route, and it's almost like they threw it and it wasn't Maeva wasn't even a Trojan last year. It's not like they were teammates, but it was almost like, hey, long lost friend, here, let's throw you a bone. So it started really well. We had a lot of momentum early, and then
we had a lot of momentum until Lincoln Riley dusted off the counter play, and we never could quite adjust to it very well. First off, we never really tried to spill it. So when they're running counter and the guard pulls and he's trying to kick out the defensive end to create that crease back inside the C gap, you can either defend it by boxing it back in and just, forcing the play in, and, you have other defenders fill in that gap from the secondary, or you try to squeeze down on the line of scrimmage, force the running back to bounce outside of the block rather than inside where he wants to go. And so we never really tried to spill it. I felt like we started to get some good penetration against their down blocks on the front side of counter, but it was a case of guys would overrun it. Prince Will would overrun it. MJ Sherman or John Blake Bear, Mekhi Bear. And so there was a case of they kind of used our pursuit against us. And Woody Marks had such a fast first step where he was gone. It was like he was shot out of a cannon. And then they just really kind of played complementary football after that, off of that base counter. I didn't like some of our alignments either. I'll try to do what you did with our, telestrator from Temu.
Oh, geez.
But basically what happened was they were giving us a tight end and a wing surface to one side, usually to the boundary. And they were kind of coming back to the other side. They were going to run counter back to the other side with the jet motion. So you can kind of see, where is this here?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so now here is your wing surface, tight end, and the H-back right there. So we were kind of aligning too far inside on this offensive tackle with our edge players. That's giving up leverage pre-snap. There should never be an excuse for giving up leverage pre-snap because teams are going to take the easy yards every time. And so I didn't like a lot of the execution, didn't like a lot of the alignments, but yet they still played effort-wise well enough to keep us in that game until that 4th and 1 option play kind of broke our back.
Yeah, let's see. Somebody said it here. Time of possession was about a 4-minute difference for USC. I think that their, first start quarterback is a Trojan. That Maeva.
Yep.
I mean,
is a UNLV freshman.
He was transferred. He was. I hate to say it, he was good. I didn't really know what to expect. I never watched a UNLV film. Good legs, good vision, and
tough. We got some good hits on him.
And I'll say this too. I think what disappointed me quite a bit was the amount of time, the number of times that we left the middle of the field open, either on run plays, quarterback run plays, or they had some big receptions that went through the middle.
Well, they really formationed us really well. Again, like I pointed out with the tight end wing surface and our alignments, they also really formationed us well to get the middle of the field exposed, whether that's with the post-snap, action of the play or utilizing play action in the passing game or pre-snap motion. And so it goes back to what's always been said about Lincoln Riley. He's not a great head coach. He's not a program leader or program builder. He's a play caller who happens to be a head coach. But as a play caller, he's top notch. I mean, I'd have to put him up there with probably Jeff Brom in terms of some of the better play callers in America.
And you historically have held Jeff Brom in very high regard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I told you back in 2017, I was like, shit, I wish we could hire Brom, instead of Frost.
Well, we didn't. We didn't hire.
No,
well,
we didn't.
hired one of those guys.
He's never going to leave. He's the Broms are royalty in that town.
Blaine Cole with an interesting question. We're just going to jump right into it. I think there's probably a little bit more meat on the defensive side of the ball bone, but Blaine says, how would you rate the coaching staff for making halftime adjustments?
I kind of feel like we really didn't make many halftime adjustments. I felt like a lot of our adjustments came in that second quarter after we saw how they were playing us through the first quarter. And so I think that we adjusted pretty well for the most part. I think that we decided to really I don't think utilizing the running backs in the passing game was a part of the initial game plan. I think that was an adjustment that we realized how they were defending us, whether they weren't blitzing the back or they weren't running any green dog stunts. And so I think Dana, I mean, he's a solid offensive coordinator, been doing it for a long time. I think he did pretty well for having, 6 days as the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I liked what Tony White did to try to get more inside pressure on the line of scrimmage against USC's counterplay. We just totally overran it. And it might not be, some people, always want to place 100% of the blame on coaching. Some people want to blame 100% of the blame on the players. Truth is usually somewhere in the middle. I think yesterday was a case of we need better players. I thought that the plans overall were pretty solid. I think that we need to upgrade at some positions.
Let me ask you this. As far as like overrunning pursuit, that's something that can be fixed relatively. I don't want to oversimplify, but can that be fixed by Saturday against Wisconsin? Or is it? I just, when you go back and when you think about it, and the number of times, we were just a little too aggressive in the backfield.
Yep. That's what the counterplay does. If you're going up against the down block, to the offense, it's down block. To defender, you're thinking as you're trying to defeat the down block, is this zone? Is this, a zone reach, or is this a down block? Are they running inside zone to my right, or are they going to come back with counter to my left? And so you start to kind of guess and on where the ball's going and not following your keys. And I think that we had some guys out there who were kind of guessing and not following, trusting their training and their fundamentals.
In the chat has answered or chimed in on Blaine's question. So Ken E says C-. David Matney says C-. Let's see. I thought that there'd be more grades than that. So I think you're right. I'm in that. As far as making adjustments, you're right. We didn't make it's. I feel like yesterday was more of a situation. I don't want to echo what you said or always agree with Haas because Haas is so much smarter than me. But I think you could say that yesterday was more of a situation of Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's. Yeah. A lot of times you're going to find where. Like you, man. I wake up every Saturday morning or every game day. We have the occasional Friday. Obviously, we'll have one on Black Friday as well. And I think today's the day that the stars are going to align, and we're gonna finally cook up that 50 burger on Iowa, and it's gonna be a great day to be a Husker fan. And by middle of the third quarter, I was drinking. It also helped that it was dinner time. So. But it's not to, rehash the conversation from the beginning of the show, but, it's an investment. We as Husker fans, obviously so many of us are financially invested, for season ticket holders and the merch and everything else, the wall decor, but man, we are so emotionally invested. And the last 20 plus years, the ROI has been.
It ain't negative. Been there.
It's been there. No. So,
it feels like, I don't know. It feels like Tom Osborne went to a loan shark in the 90s, so to speak, and we're still paying the VIG on all of that success. Or as someone pointed out in the chat, that Tom Osborne sold the program's soul in 94, An old Scratch is still collecting.
Scratch. I haven't heard Scratch in a while. Gargamel says, I thought I permanently flushed the Joe Daly stepping out of bounds. Oh, the horror. Why you got to do that to people, Hoss?
It was bad. It was bad.
Interesting question from Stephen Fromm says, how many more 5 and 7 years can the fans stomach before they stop going to games? I think as long as there are going to be Nebraska football games, there will be Nebraska football fans going to those games.
I do think we're at a critical point. I know some people in the chat have pointed out what happens if Rule goes 5 and 7 this year and 5 and 7 next year. I think this is a case of we just got to buckle up for the long haul, long rebuild. I know people don't want to hear that because everybody wants to, they look at what Signetti is doing at Indiana. They look at what Mel Tucker did in 21 at Michigan State. But at some point, you have to almost look at it as, are we the problem? Are the expectations the problem? Is there something internal that just has festered to the point where it just makes the job so much more difficult for coaches to get the job done here? So I don't want to be the person preaching patience on, you just got to be patient, because I'm frustrated right along with everybody else. At the end of the day, yesterday, I'm sitting there going why the fuck do I do this to myself? Why? I went all the way to Columbus, Ohio this year, drove 13 hours there on a Friday, went to the game Saturday, drove 13 hours back on Sunday. I'm going to Iowa City, in less than 2 weeks for the Nebraska-Iowa game. Like, I'm always going to do this, but at the same time, like, we want that return on investment. And like David Matney says, going to a bowl game is not a high expectation.
No,
it really isn't. But I do think, like, at some point, the carousel's got to stop. Like, I think that if we keep churning and burning through coaches without giving them, the length of their contract, that we will end up as Minnesota. And we already, are there. Minnesota had that great run. And then after 1962, they kind of just petered out. But I'm to the point where I'm always going to be a Husker football fan. I'm always going to watch the games, live and die with it. But my monetary investment in it might take a step back, and I might temper the expectations if it's just going to continue to be the same thing. And zero, I agree. Bama fired till they got Saban. But I also think that each situation's unique. Like, we're just going to have to figure this out, and see where it goes. If he goes 5-7 in year 4, then he needs to be gone. Type 2, like mentioning no contract ever expires. The terms of the first contract is what I'm.
Let me say this too. I think you gotta buy in on Matt Rule, and by that I mean you gotta buy in on the way he's doing it. He's not getting into the transfer portal and getting guys, getting a slew of talent. He's getting a few, but he is actually trying to recruit high school kids and bring them in and develop them. And so you can't expect a turnover like that. Now, when we got Dowdell and Banks and Ceyair and Mazuka, I think we had expectations. Like, heck yeah, they're gonna awesome from Texas and Wake Forest and Oregon. Oregon. Like, they're gonna come here and they're gonna make an impact. And they kind of did a little early on, and Dowdell still does. And Ceyair had a couple of nice catches yesterday, and I think Banks had one. Banks also got, and we didn't talk about it. I don't know if we want to talk about it because I don't want to.
I want to touch on it, but I want to touch on something that you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Rule has made a couple of mistakes thus far.
Okay.
The first one is his initial hires. Marcus Satterfield was probably his third choice as his offensive coordinator when he got the job. Marcus Satterfield was also stripped of play calling duties at South Carolina in 22. And then the next game after they stripped him of those duties, they scored 63 points on Tennessee.
Why did that happen with us?
Yeah, right.
Why did we put 63 up on Southern Cal?
The other thing is Rule being in the NFL at a really critical time in college football with the portal was around in 18 and 19, but really took off, post NIL in 2021 and 22. Yeah, 22. He's still trying to build programs like it's 2018. And he needs to really look at how the modern game is being played in terms of recruiting and building a program. You still want to have that base of high school guys, no doubt. But I think like you have to play the game. And so those are his two critical mistakes. And I think that those need to be corrected.
Interesting one from Rostovsky here says Rule couldn't bring in guys from his last job, unlike Kurt Signetti. You can't bring Carolina Panthers into Lincoln, Nebraska.
There is that, but Rule, he just wasn't really doing anything, with the portal as much when he was at Baylor before he left for Carolina. It was the NIL changed the nature of the game. Even in the portal era, when it started in 2018, 2019, you saw guys hitting the portal, but you didn't see guys going somewhere for a year, getting some NIL money, then bouncing the very next year. NIL changed the entire paradigm. And so I feel like we're kind of he's still catching up to that.
Well, this is you don't have a whole lot of time to learn this one on the job. I mean, this is and Matt Rule's not stupid. He knows that this is a fan base that expects a quick turnaround because, again, Indiana got a quick turnaround. Michigan State got a quick turnaround. You're seeing other programs with lesser football profile doing it better than we are. And I think that's a contributing factor to our angst.
I think that's one mindset we have to drop, though.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been Nebraska for 25 years.
No, we're still Nebraska. We're just not the Nebraska of old.
Exactly. We have to drop the Nebraska of old. Like, it sucks because everybody takes pride in it, but I think that in order to move forward, we have to totally embrace the new way of college football. That 40-year run's never going to happen ever again.
No. I have a lot of start comments here. Should we get to a few of these?
Yeah, let's get to a few of these.
All right. Buzzlet said every part of the game felt predictable.
It did.
Yeah, and not in the fun way, Buzz. Not in the fun way.
No.
Paul Dalen said, we're cursed.
Yep.
And I found something in the more recent comment because this one came across at 9:03, and it was something about if every bug eater prayed. There we go. If every Nebraska bug eater would say a prayer, maybe the curse would lift. That's from Burnt World. So, kind of old comment, new comment. I like bringing them together. Unrelated to us, I guess, in the fact that, until we play them on Saturday. But Mike says Wisconsin fired their offensive coordinator today. Did you have that on your 2024 bingo card?
Phil Longo's gone, which means and Wisconsin's 0-4 against top 50 defenses, and we're still a top 50 defense. But that means Wisconsin will look like the 07 Patriots on Saturday.
Yeah, I got a bad feeling about that.
Yep.
It works out for all of other teams but us. You ever realize that?
As Damon Benning has said on 1620 all the time, if you want to get right, play Nebraska.
Yeah. That's right. Look at my synergy. Pit Snipe Husker says, pray to whom? It's there, it's gone. I would say the deity of your choosing. I'm not here to proselytize. So I've got my beliefs. Y'all got your beliefs. Pray to the Hindu god Ganesh. I don't give a shit. As long as it brings a 6th win in a bowl game.
Pray to St. Greg.
You know what? St. Gregory the Great's feast day was no, I'm sorry. I'm getting my saints conflated. Apologize. Ken E, another $5 say, I don't know about anyone else, but I wanted to punch Lincoln Riley in the mouth after he said we were due.
Ken, amen, brother.
I don't think USC's due for anything. They've had a Heisman Trophy winner. They've had national championship appearances. They kiss my fat foot. Thanks, Ken. You know what? I appreciate the $5. We would have highlighted that one without. So Aaron Rostovsky says, pray to me as Batman. So it's an interesting one. Some more love in the comments earlier on for Bonner. Pitt Snipe Husker was concurring with Brutus. I think Holg loves him some Bonner.
I honestly think if we're going to be running the Y cross play out of the air raid that they love, tight end, deep crosser, Bonner's probably the guy that should be running that deep crossing route. I think we'll see a little bit more of a air raid menu against Wisconsin moving forward.
I made this comment on Thursday. Tell me what you think. Holgorsen's not coming with a new playbook. He's taking the plays that are there and rearranging the plan or making a plan.
It's more in terms of game planning, preparation, and play sequencing in game. Like, a lot of stuff is still stuff that we ran all year. I think that there's a lot of stuff that you'll see against Wisconsin and Iowa that'll look more air raid. Those concepts have already been in Nebraska's playbook. Everybody runs Y sail and Y cross. It's just how you present them. It's the packaging, the window dressing.
Buzz says the game might have gone differently if Harsog was 2 inches taller. And there are so many, almost interceptions or just, and I don't know if it's, again, if height or if just mistiming the jump. But yeah, a couple of those passes did just sail over the outstretched hand. And I say this, like, Hartzog's a dog. Like, he's got more interceptions than anybody on the team. I think he's a terrific open field tackler. And yeah, if he was just a couple inches taller, I think he'd have a lot of Sunday potential. We'll see. I don't know, if they can measure the immeasurables, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Bruce Davis, will get this question because I know this one just came across. My question is, does Nebraska have to run more to possibly win next Saturday?
I'd like to see more runs. Yeah. I'd like to see more passes to the tailbacks too, kind of as an extension of the run game.
But not screens, right? Not screens.
Well, no. More checkdowns like that option route to Emmett Johnson for the touchdown.
Let's see. Question for Haas from Mr. Matney, living in Omaha, David Matney. Does our offensive line give Dylan enough time in the pocket for the air raid?
I think that if we were able to run the ball effectively to kind of back off a pass rush and we were able to hit stuff over the middle to kind of keep more defenders in coverage, I think that they could give him some time. The big question is there's teams historically like Wisconsin that we've struggled to protect our quarterback even against just a rush from their front four. And so especially left tackle position, I think you'll see Mazuka be more in at left tackle with Holgorsen as the offensive coordinator. So I think that's something to keep an eye on to answer David's question.
I like this one. Iowa, I believe that it looks like it. I'm so desperate to cheer for a winner, I may have to go root for the non-revenue sports. You can always just go root for volleyball. That's a revenue generator and a winner. 40 straight home wins. So longest current streak. So a couple star ones here. Gargamel said, seems Lutovsky and Benhart were knocking guys off the line. Wish we would have kept running that way. I mean, a lot of comments here from the regarding offensive line play. And look, we know that Lutovsky wasn't the day one starter, and it was only through injury that Gunnar Gatula became a day one starter. Let's talk just a minute or two, because I know you love some offensive line talk. How do you think the O-line looked and performed yesterday in total?
I would give him probably a C-.
Okay.
I don't think that there's really much that we're going to be able to do in season to get them to, totally change things around. But I do agree that Lutovsky was knocking guys off the line of scrimmage. I thought Gatula has played pretty well. I'm trying to think of what play it was yesterday that really stood out to me about Gatula. Drawing a blank. It's been a long day.
But honestly, if nothing's jumping out, that means that they probably just did their job, right?
Didn't
make any egregious errors.
There was something about Gatula. I'll have to go back and watch, maybe have you tweet it out or something like that on the 5 Heart X account. But all in all, Ben Scott, I thought was playing better as well. I thought he really struggled the past 3 or 4 games in Satterfield with Satterfield as the play caller, but they looked improved. It's just, again, I think that we're lacking some players on offense to really make the offensive line look better. Amir Abdullah made some very poor offensive lines look really good in 2013 and 2014. Really, Woody Marks made a USC's offensive line look a lot better too.
So a lot of that can be attributed good or bad. A lot of the offensive line grade be, kind of the skill players around them, so which I understand.
I think Fred pointed out 954. There was one play where the DN ran around Gatula before he even stood up. I think that was on a pressure that Gatula didn't even look that way. Didn't even see it coming.
Mr. Matney says, is there anything we do well as a team at this point? Maybe pregame fights?
Punt. Almost winning.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do like this call false start. It reminds us everybody but the center. That was not fun. All right. Matthew Anderson says Nebraska has a confidence problem. When the pressure is ratcheted up, they dial everything back. They play not to lose, but in return, they're playing not to win. That has been Nebraska's problem for over a decade.
A little performance anxiety.
Happens to the best of us. All right. Mr. Matney also wants to know Haas, and I like how he's just ignoring me. Like, I'm not here. He gets enough of me on Thursdays, I guess. Haas, what grade would you give Coach Rule thus far this season? What grade would you give Raiola?
Raiola grading on a curve as a freshman. Man, Early part of the year bumps it up a little bit, but I would probably say C-. If he would have had a rough start to the year, I probably would say D. For Rule, that's a really good question. I'm probably going to say D+. If he could maybe salvage something, in the last 2 games of the regular season, they'll bump that up. But I think that Rule's been different this year. I think that Rule has been a little bit more, I don't know, there just doesn't seem to be the just go and cut it loose and go out there and, play, like there was in 2023. I know that I was talking to Jake, Big Game Jake, Every Game Jake, a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about like the 2023 season for going 5-7 and having no quarterbacks, turning the ball over left and right. It was so much more of an enjoyable season than this one. This one, like every game, it feels like you're sitting through a root canal.
Is that because we didn't really know what to expect last year?
I think so. I don't think anyone expected the defense to be that good last year. And the defense kept us in pretty much every game, sans the Michigan game. But I would really lean almost more towards, and I know some people are probably going to think that I'm waffling back and forth after my defensive Rule earlier in the show, but I would probably, if I was just going to look at it for what it is, especially after the 5-1 start, I'd say it's a D+ coaching job. A lot needs to get fixed.
Oh, Rostovsky says he's now some games, Jake, since he's not here today. He did reach out to us earlier today and say he's going to be out of town for work for a week, so he wanted to spend the evening with his wife. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, family first. So he's not absent, he's excused, and we can't wait for Jake to be back next week. Fair enough to say, Haas?
Hopefully it's after a Wisconsin win, but when you haven't beat them since the iPhone 4 was brand new.
God dang. I love that when you say that. I love / hate when you say that.
We're 1-16 against Iowa and Wisconsin since 2015.
I don't want to hear that anymore. Sean B29 says we played at the level of our opponent, no matter how good or bad. And one of the reasons that I started this comment for further discussion is we thought that might be the case when we ran up against Indiana, and then Indiana just beat the doors off of us, 49-point win. And we thought, we had set up to then. I think Haas, maybe you had said it, or Jake, or I, or maybe it was something from the comments, but they said, well, yeah, Indiana hadn't played anybody. And then they beat the crap out of us. And like, yeah, they still haven't played. Well, they're going to have a test this Saturday in Columbus because game day is going to be there. It's going to be Indiana and Ohio State. If Indiana wins that game, Haas, I mean,
Indiana, I think, is going to win the game.
I think they will too.
I think Indiana is legit. I think Kurt Cignetti, people can hate his arrogance, his brashness. He's a phenomenal football coach. I agree with a lot of the commenters about just the overall mindset that Cignetti approaches coaching football with. I like Rule, but I really like Cignetti.
Yeah. We got to talk about Jake. Aaron Keene says, so he is staying married, Jake, because he chose his wife. And
choosing your pregnant wife is always a good, solid choice.
And Pitt says work and wives are bullshit. Yes, if it could be Husker football all the time, I don't know, we'd all probably be in a loony bin with the rate of Husker football these days. Let's see. Ronald Crosby says, you think the Huskers will win at least one of the 2 games left to get bowl eligible?
No. Can I tell you what I think is going to happen?
Not if it includes predictions, because we're not there yet. But
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm just going to be vague. We'll fight our asses off against Wisconsin only to lose with about, maybe a minute left. Throw a pick, something. And then what will happen in the Iowa game is it'll come down to the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter on a cold-ass night in Iowa City where Kirk Ferentz, basically stuffs us in a trash can again.
Yeah, let's not forget that that's going to be a fun one at like 6:30 kickoff on Black Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to probably freeze my ass off.
Well, take some hot chocolate with a little bit of bourbon in it.
I I ordered some ski pants. I've never actually been skiing. I'm just, trying to stay warm.
Fred says, serious comment. It's difficult to get psyched after yet another late season decline.
It is.
And I was looking, we have not won a game in November since Black Friday 2022.
I was at that game.
The Mickey Joseph game 2 years ago in Iowa City, 24-17. We can't have another winless November. Like, it's going to be a very dark. You talk about seasonal depression. We're going to have off-season depression if we go winless in November. There's so much.
Sorry.
I was just going to say.
The fuck, Greg?
You or me?
You.
I'd say there's so much riding on 2 games. All we need is to win one.
It's a 2-game roll of the dice. Well, yeah, 2 games left. And what's probably going to come down to is Iowa will be the 1-game roll of the dice. And like Fred said, probably lose to Wisconsin just because. And Iowa will do Iowa things and wait for us to shit the bed. That's basically like last year when Tommy Hill picks off who was that ogre of a quarterback they had last year? Deacon Hill.
Yes.
When he picks him off and then Taman Lynham, gets the holding penalty on the interception return. I remember sitting there watching that game, and I told someone I was watching the game with, I was like, we're gonna screw around and find a way to lose this thing. And they're, oh, no, we're not. No, we're not. Isaac Gifford whiffs on a run fit on Caleb Johnson that puts him into field goal range. Iowa doesn't go out and beat you. Iowa waits for you to beat yourself. So instead of playing to win, they really just play not to lose.
And they've mastered it so much more than we have.
Honestly, again, this may not be what some people want to hear, but at the end of the day, I don't know if we can make fun of Iowa for their style of winning anymore. Because they win. We don't.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. Oh, there. Question for Greg. Oh, thank you, David. I appreciate that. How does the lack of winning affect the analytics on the Corn Nation YouTube channel? Do you see a drop in viewers and subs?
Nerd.
I don't know. I don't look at the analytics. I know that on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock Central, we have over 700 people watching this between YouTube, Facebook, and X. And that brings me to my next comment. Rostovsky says 100 viewers and 19 likes. What more do you people want than the telestrator action?
We should ask John if we can get a telestrator.
I told you I would just fund a dry erase board. Whatever you need, we'll get taken care of.
All right. I need a dry erase board. I need a thing to, give me a new cell phone while we're at it. Best and brightest. Just write that off to Corn Nation.
Yeah, of course. All right. Kenny, a couple more comments here, and then we're going to wrap things up. Ken E says, if every Nebraska fan donated $20 to NIL, assuming 1 million fans, we'd have a hell of an NIL. Fans could help out a lot, not rely on the big donors. There is power in numbers.
I agree.
You can start by just supporting the pipeline jerky. I used to have a bag of pipeline jerky right here on that I pipelined, but it's all gone. So support, it's tough, man, because we already pay taxes, so it's tough to at least that is still, Ken E, that's still voluntary. Not like what they're doing at Tennessee, where they're adding a 10% surcharge to your ticket for talent fees, essentially. So I don't know if you heard about that.
I think everybody's going to go that direction.
I do too. It was just going to be who was going to get there first. Cornborn Mike says, can I ask when referees are going to be held accountable for missing blatant penalties, i.e. the freaking pass interference at the end?
I agree. The one thing that I will say, and this is the only time I'll ever come close to defending a referee, they did call it like that pretty much all game. So they were consistently bad.
Yeah. When it happens at the biggest moments,
yep.
it's
I don't think that
painful.
You can swallow the whistle at that point.
All right. Predictions.
David Matney's wondering when I'm going to make a guest appearance on Five Heart Theater. What is this Five Heart Theater? Is this what the podcast that I was once a founding member of has evolved into?
We have fun. we have What's Greg Drinking Today. We occasionally do Five Heart Theater, which is basically Minnie takes some lines of dialogue from press conferences, and we do impressions. It's fun. We have a little graphic for it. It's
Do I
it's
get
fun.
to? So, like, if I showed up, like, do I do a Dana Holgorsen impression by drinking a Coors Banquet while drawing up a play? And do I do a Do I do my Marcus Satterfield impersonation again?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that would be great.
I could block off time this Thursday.
Pitt says it's terrible. Don't do it. You don't want to know. And Finn says bearded Minnie.
Minnie might not let me on the show after I've called for the benching of her Lord and Savior.
That's the one. You know what? Because if she were here with us live, she would have let us know her displeasure. So whenever she goes back to watch this, I just hope she makes it through that section. That's gonna be a tough moment for her. So Londell says yes, and I think that is to you coming on the 5-Hour podcast again. And obviously, you have open invitation. So Fred's getting ahead of us with his prediction. And Pitt says, "Who lets me decide things?" I just know not to piss people off. That's my MO. All right. Let's take a look at your prediction that you said. I think you're gonna have to change this one from.
I was looking at my weather app and it clicked, or trying to open up my weather app, and it clicked on Instagram because it's right underneath of it, and it was on wheels. So happens to the best of us.
We'll start with Jake. He's not here to defend or correct anything, and he said 17-9 Nebraska. Nebraska over Wisconsin.
For Wisconsin, okay.
No, shit. I'm sorry. I was looking at a week ahead. 27-23 Nebraska.
Okay.
For Jake. And you said, and I think you're going to have to amend this a little bit. You said 24-3 Nebraska.
I still think Wisconsin's offense is that bad. I will say that. But I don't trust our offense to score 24 points in 3 games at this point.
We got to 20 just this past week. Come on now.
So my thought process on this,
you'd say like 5-3.
It's going to be about probably. I was looking the weather app while I was trying to look at it. Is earlier today I saw around game time is probably going to be in like the 38 to 40 degree range in Lincoln. It's going to be cold. I'm not going to predict a loss. I'm going to say Nebraska 13, Wisconsin 10. In a bowling shoe ugly kind of game, like an East Lansing Sunrise.
Can I make a bold prediction?
Yeah.
Because of the conditions?
Heinrich Haarberg scores a touchdown.
That's not my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that we get a 100-yard rusher.
Okay.
Because if the ball's if the air is going to be cold, you're not going to be able to throw it. And
you can throw them cold. It's wind that makes it difficult.
Yeah, but it doesn't go as far, And
Greg, they throw the ball in Green Bay, Wisconsin in January. Foxborough, Massachusetts. Don't give me this shit.
Don't rain on my parade, man. I'm trying to pump us up with a 100-yard rusher, and you're over here shitting on my theories. That's fine. I don't know anything.
No, please.
No, I was just I don't care if it's Dowdell or Johnson or Heinrich Haarberg. And honestly, if he plays significantly, Heinrich's probably got a better chance than anybody if you look at his body of work last year against teams like Illinois, etc. So I say 100-yard rusher, and Nebraska wins. I don't have a score. I'll tell you what. How's about this for a tease? I'll give you the score on Thursday night.
Damn.
You want me to do it right now?
On the table, like now.
I'll go. Okay. I'm writing it down. 20-13.
Can I change my score? I don't like 13-10. I want this to reflect just how weird it'll be. I'm going to go 15-13.
15 what?
15-13.
Oh, my gosh.
It's going to be a game that only a true Big Ten West fan could love.
Let's see. James Boardman says if Raiola plays, Whiskey wins 17-10. If Haarberg plays, Nebraska wins 24-17. So James Boardman says there's a 2-score difference if Heinrich plays. So
running the football.
We will, and look, as we all know, for you Chatterfields on Thursday nights, we know that there is a co-host who keeps a running tally of everybody's. So make sure that you remember these predictions for Thursday night. And my friend, it's always great catching up with you. Eventually we'll do these, one of these after a win again, because it's been a long time, Hoss, since we've won a football game.
Yeah, it's going on probably, 40 days?
We haven't won since before the first bye week.
Yeah, since Rutgers.
October 5th.
Gotta change.
We need one. Let's see if we can't make it happen.
Let's go secure this one and then go into Iowa City and play like with nothing to lose. Because if Iowa's going to be the one game roll of the dice, I don't like our chances, because you know that those guys relish the opportunity to keep our asses at home for the holidays.
Yep. Yeah. No, I want to. I would really like to finish out. I know it's unlikely.
I'd love to beat Wisconsin so I can quit saying the iPhone 4 line.
There's gonna be there's so many things that could be done away with by the end of the season if we beat Wisconsin. If we get to our first bowl game since the Obama administration, there's a lot going on, and we appreciate all you coming out, because we know it can't be easy after a loss like yesterday to come out. But we appreciate the support. I know John does. John personally appreciates you padding his retirement from YouTube when the content creation ends. So
I got student loans I need to pay off, so I need you to cut me in.
I'm also going to have bills. So
I'm gonna have a lot more bills in the next year myself too.
Yeah, I'm excited for that for you and Katie. But that'll do it for this episode of the Corn Nation Overreaction. And make sure that you, if you haven't already, I think I have a graphic for this. I do. So if you haven't already, make sure that you like this video. Just like Rostovsky said, only 19 of you had liked it prior. Hopefully that's changed. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that bell for notifications so you know every time Hoss and I are going live, or John for Monday Night Therapy, which I have to go back and look. I don't want to get your hopes up or down, but I thought he said something might conflict with schedule. There might not be Monday Night Therapy this week. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. Andy with Husker Happy Hour on Tuesday. Obviously, Thursday, 5-Heart Podcast, and instant reactions, all the content. You don't find out about it if you're not notified. You can't be notified if you don't subscribe. And the first step is liking this video. So that'll do it for my good friend Hoss Reuter, Greg Mahochko. This is Corn Nation Overreaction. And until next time, go Big Red. Hoss.
Find a way.
Super simple.